Florida State extends the lead to 12. Now remember, the school is tied at the half at 43, so Florida State has continued their offensive play, and Boston College has been unable to because of the Florida State defense. Miller had Florida wide open. They get Florida's hands. He just hasn't been ready for a couple of these balls. But again, Ari, what happens is Boston College misses, and Florida State just beats them down the court. And it's not complicated what's going on.
Let me ask you this. Do you think the lack of offensive times in the second half has affected the way he's played?
I know, offense have always. As a coach, you might say that it does go against the flyby foul there. Again, trying to put pressure on Boston College.
Bob Miller's forced foul.
But Boston College has had turnover problems. They've been forced to take tough shots. And when you don't convert, you just get discouraged. It's hard to play defense.
Front end of the 1-1 is the Eagles are in the bonus. It's converted by Boone Ghost.
Boston College shot over 60% from the field in the first half. They're right down around 40 in this half. The Florida State has turned up the defensive intensity, but the Seminoles have been able to keep their offensive rhythm going.
Still some time left. Immediate timeout.
Lots of time left.
Feel like the Eagles need a stop of the score. Jackson, that's not stop. Taylor Jackson has been on fire here tonight.
It just comes right through the game.
Yeah.
We're having a
You good?
delay on.
You good?
Bear with us.
You good?
Okay, we're good. Welcome everyone to the first general meeting of the year. So happy to see you all, although many of you were at the Dr. Fitzgerald event last week at the Clayton Club. Anybody show up for that? I see some faces that did. It's a lot of fun. As you know, I'm the Raiders. I'm your current president, and we had a terrific event with Dr. Fitzgerald. He was hysterical. The Clayton Club donated the space for us, so thanks to Matt Joblin and the Clayton Club. They did a phenomenal job. It was a terrific evening, and that's one of the benefits of membership. So anyway, it was great to see so many of you there and to see you here tonight. So a couple quick little points. Hope you all got the newsletter. We are going to have another struggle-thon this year on April 20th. We are using the Fillmore Plaza again. So when you do your taxes or you go through all your stuff, save all that shredding, because if you're a paid member, supporting member of CCNNA, you get 2 free boxes and or bags, and then we ask for $10 donation if you're not a member or on top of that. So please put that in your calendars. We've got a couple of other quick announcements. Councilwoman Sawyer could not be here this evening because City Council was meeting tonight since yesterday. It was a holiday. So Owen Bringer is her aide. You want to come up, Owen? He's going to just say a few words about the survey that Councilwoman Sawyer has just put out. We want to make sure everybody has an opportunity to weigh in. So I'm going to give this over to Owen.
For those of you who don't know me, my name is Tom Bringer. I'm one of Sawyer's aides, as Lou said. So we've got a survey that's open right now. I've got flyers, it's got the link and the QR code here. The survey is essentially a community needs assessment for Cherry Creek. And so we know that the Denver Moves Cherry Creek portion just ended, which is the transportation piece that the city was focused on. This is run through our office and in partnership with the neighborhood. And this is the quality of life piece. So this is a big deal. And so we've got this survey. It's open until March 31st. I think we'll take that. I've got these flyers. I'll send them out so you all can grab them. If you have any questions, feel free to ask or reach out to our office.
Thank you.
Question.
Yeah.
The last survey that we took, did you guys ever publish the results?
So we actually, so the last survey that we did was an annual survey. Councilmember Slater does it every year. She's done it every year since she came into office in 2019. And we actually just did we analyzed it, we finished analyzing it internally. And so those results should be on the website within the next week. And we'll put that in our newsletter so you'll be able to access it.
I have a question. I didn't get, where's the survey? I didn't get a survey.
Councilwoman Sawyer puts out, some links to her surveys, and her annual survey, I think was linked through CCMA, but she puts this out to all the RNOs. So, anybody who wanted to respond to that end date was December 31. And again, that's, her district-wide survey. The survey we're talking about now is really Cherry Creek and needs assessments. What's bugging you? What do you think you can do? What are the specific issues that we all have in Cherry Creek? So different focus on that survey. So please, everyone, make sure that you pick up a flyer. I think if it's not on Councilman Sawyer's website, it will be soon, but you'll be able to just, get the link from the QR code. And then in the future, if anybody just wants to get the information from the councilwoman, just go to the website and you can sign up for notices. And it really is a good website full of a lot of good information. And once you sign up, you'll be on the list and you'll get probably more emails than you want. But it is a way to stay connected. Okay, so there will be a flyer around the neighborhood for folks who aren't here, who don't attend, who haven't got the word. So help us get the word out. Linda?
It's also on our Cherry Creek North Neighbors Facebook page.
Yes, we have a great Facebook page, thanks to Linda Barker. And so we're gonna get this word out. Please, everybody, watch for it. The other piece is that, as many of you know, we've been trying to get a better understanding of everything that is going to change with the parking restrictions and permitting. Annette Woodward and I have been working with Dottie on this. Councilwoman Sawyer has stepped in. She has arranged for a meeting with Dottie. So we are still working on it, and we're going to try to get the word out. We have some real problems with the draft, including this area plan where a permit would be good for anywhere in the district, which means everyone's going to park in those blocks immediately adjacent to the bid, and regardless of where people live. So we still have some challenges. We are probably going to be reaching out to you. We have a meeting, I believe it's going to be March 15th. And after that, we will be reaching out to the neighbors to help us either do a petition and try to make sure that our voices are heard and that this does not have to go to council. It just has to go through Dottie. So when we ask you all to please help us watch for that in the next month. And let's do something about making sure that our collective voice is heard on this particular issue before it's too late to do anything about it. So with that, I'm finished with announcements, and I'm going to turn it over to Christine Des Enfants, who is the fabulous, wonderful head of the Cherry Creek Chamber of Commerce. She has been there many years and has been a terrific partner with the neighborhood organization. She always shows up. She always provides value, and we're so happy to have her here to present an update on the development in Cherry Creek. So please help me when you welcome me, Christine.
Reliable, it's because I'm from Iowa, like Lou, originally. How many of you have been in Cherry Creek more than 40 years? Anybody? Lou's been here 40 years? Yeah. 40? Another 40? All right, just curious. I want to go back and just tell you just a little bit about the history of Cherry Creek chamber. Because it was really the seeds of a lot of what has happened in Cherry Creeks, good or bad. I can't take the hit because I wasn't here 40 years ago running the chamber. But Doug, if you can do the next slide. So the chamber actually should be the first slide. So it started 40 years ago, and it was a group of 10 guys. One of them, Bill Gervasini, was a realtor in the area. He had a lawyer, a banker. Anyway, these guys decided that this needed to be the regional shopping area for the Rocky Mountains. So this is 1983, a huge fight with downtown went on. Underhanded things that nobody has ever revealed to me happened, but apparently there were underhanded things going on. So the mall was built in 1990, and while the mall was in the process of getting built, a lot of things happened. The steering committee started. You guys have heard about the Cherry Creek Steering Committee. We had to make sure that it was laid out properly, that there wasn't parking on First Avenue, that it wasn't a blight to the neighborhood. And the merchants on the north side of Cherry Creek said, hey, what about us? You're gonna put a mall in, how are we gonna survive? So the very first business improvement district in the state started, and that's the Cherry Creek North BID. So you guys are familiar with that. That's the 16 block outdoor mall. Nick Lemasters came over recently and has been running it, I think, 3 years now. So he's treating it like it is a mall, honestly. You know, beautiful holiday lights, activities, security is just so important. Parking, always a sore subject, but somebody's got to do it, right? Doug, if you go to the next slide. So about a decade ago, these guys came to me, because I've been here 16 years, a bunch of people came to me, and they're like, Christine, you need to lobby for Cherry Creek. You need to go downtown and talk to them about everything that we need. You guys, I had just gone through a divorce. I was working 4 jobs at the time, trying to keep the chamber going, because I came into a disaster when I took over. So I looked at them, I'm like, guys, I don't know what lobbying is. No. Find something else. So find somebody else to do that. So they started the alliance about a decade ago, I think. And the purpose really, I think, was so we had a voice with downtown. And I think in a decade, they're now starting to understand what their priorities are. The Cherry Creek waterway is a big issue. First Avenue is a huge issue. Parking, mobility. They're really, I think, at a point now that Nick has come over and is really pushing along the alliance. I think they're at a point where we're going to really have a better voice with downtown, which we desperately need. Oh, and you probably have heard that even from Amanda, like, hey, we're the golden goose. We don't need anything, but we do need things. And that's why we have the alliance. And that's why 3 entities that I just mentioned, we all became an umbrella organization under them a few years ago, just so that we could have a unified business voice. So thank you. That was my commercial for the Cherry Creek Chamber and that group. So now we get to the fun stuff, or not. So if you want to go to the next slide, Doug. So when you have a vibrant community that is clean, safe, and beautiful, everyone wants to be here. Since our COVID shutdowns, Cherry Creek has emerged as one of the top 5 submarkets of the United States. Have you guys heard that before? Has Lou told you that? Top 5, even 4 I've heard. One of the outcomes of being in this elite group means development. We all have different emotions on how Cherry Creek has grown the past 40 years. But as my dad that passed away last year would say, it beats the alternative, which we're seeing downtown right now, right? And I was here 40 years ago. I moved here from Iowa in 1984. I think Lou was around the same time. And I remember what Cherry Creek looked like. It wasn't that snazzy. It was nice. I like the Denver Drive. It was nice. So I want you to feel free to pipe in with anything that might be helpful during my presentation, because this development that's going on is a work in progress right now. I'm constantly trying to stay on top of what's happening. And I work with Richard at Cherry Creek North. We both try to just Hey, how many latest news on that development? He has a much harder job than I do, because he's gotta make sure that these construction workers aren't parking in the wrong place, and that the community knows what development's going on and what roads might be closed. But so, just so you know, the last time I reached out to, a lot of these developments has been in the last couple of months, just to stay on top of it, and Richard has been too. You know, one of the questions I had when I gave this report to the steering committee and I did a tour last fall was, is this sustainable, all of this development? And I just wanted to give you guys a quick update.
Yeah, just give me a sec.
Okay.
There's an issue with the Zoom, so I won't be a second, but I'll move your slide on. Sorry.
So I made some phone calls. And remember, I'm a gatherer of information. I'm not a commercial broker. I don't even know what a lot of this stuff means, honestly. I'm in the Chamber of Commerce. I have events. But Class A office space is 95% leased right now and occupied in Cherry Creek. The availability in Cherry Creek North remains very slim. The average price for Class A office is $58.50 a square foot. New construction now is greater than $70 a square foot in comparison to older Class A office that is, again, quoting between $52 and $60 a square foot. The apartments are 93% leased. The average rent is $32.81 a month, and there are some that rent for $16,000 a month. The average single-family home price last time I checked in Cherry Creek North was $3.4 million. As we delve into this PowerPoint development report, I just wanted to mention that all these developments are both in Cherry Creek North and on the outskirts of the 16-block Cherry Creek North area. It is overwhelming. So at one point I thought, heck, you know what? I'm just going to do the math on this. So Doug, if you want to go to the next slide.
I will.
So I'm just like, I got to get my head around this. So we've got 5 apartment complexes coming in, and we're going to add Cherry Creek West. That's another 4, so that's 10 apartment complexes coming in. We've got 2 condo projects, 1 hotel, 12 commercial buildings plus Cherry Creek West equals 15 commercial development projects coming in to Cherry Creek, if they get the funding. So I'm going to start out with Cherry Creek West, Doug, on the next slide. And you guys have had these guys in a number of times, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're pretty familiar with what's going on with Cherry Creek West here. I would just say, I just picked out a few things I liked in particular about this, because there's the next slide that has a bunch of information on it. They've devoted 20,000 square feet to a publicly accessible green, which we know we desperately need in Cherry Creek. The design process is concentrating on pedestrians through the site and the outdoor public realm. They're projecting 7 buildings, 3 office buildings, 4 multifamily or residential. With the residential, it's 830 units. And finally, there are some dates on this. The demo and utility work will be next and expected to break ground on the parking garage, 4th quarter 2025 is the last I heard. The first building to be delivered in the 2nd quarter 2028. Doug, if we go to the next slide, there's that big slide. So if you guys look back at this, you can see all the details on that. And this was provided by Cherry Creek West last year. So next slide, Mr. Doug. All right, so I'm going to start with multi-housing development. So Mill Creek Residential, this is right across from UC Health. You guys have seen those old, what are they, medical buildings? They wanted them to be medical buildings at one point. So Mill Creek bought this. You're familiar with Modera that just put their apartment complex on 2nd. So this is the same company that did that. They bought these 2 properties right there. And they'll be building a 6-story, 110 apartments, 165 parking spaces. Oz Architecture, they're breaking ground 2nd quarter 2024, and I think they usually finish up in about a year, so completion I'd actually make that second quarter 2025, but I'm not positive. Next slide, Doug. Stillwater Capital Investments, this is where Gardini is on Detroit Street. So this is 88 apartments, 14,000 square feet of ground floor retail and potential restaurant, 2 levels of underground parking. Again, a rooftop pool and lounge area for resident use. The architect is SB Architects. I think they're out of Miami. They're not from Denver. And they're breaking ground 2025. Next slide.
Is that just, oh, that's just our green. Okay, because you're not getting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so in the multi-housing developments, this is one of the newer ones, 325 and 329 Detroit Street. You guys remember these as old Victorian, they're still up, right? So those are coming down and it's gonna be, this is kind of new news, it was gonna be 15 condos, but now it's gonna be 9. And they're gonna do 3 retail suites in the front. That are 600 square feet, and they're gonna do 2 office suites behind the retail. The architect is Points West Design Works, and the last I heard, development plans still need to be approved, but that may have already happened. Next slide. St. Paul Place. You guys know this one pretty well, I think. So this is a luxury mixed-use development, residential for sale condominiums with ground level retail, restaurant, and hospitality. This was, you guys know, this was Piatti's and Bloom and Patchy's Pizza. So it's gonna be, it was gonna be bigger, and I think they stayed within their zoning, because there were some questions about whether they could go a little higher. So it's gonna be 37 residential units, parking spaces, retail on the first floor, the property owner's second seal. For the first time, Waldorf Astoria is gonna brand a condo in Colorado. The architect, which, you guys ever go down to the dairy block downtown? It's Shears Adkins Rockmore, which I'm noticing they're getting a lot more work here in Cherry Creek. And then, when you're ready to buy this for your kids, for me, your exclusive listing agent is Dawn Raven with Kentwood, Cherry Creek, and she sold all the Laurel condos too. So next slide, Doug. So BMC Investments in Rock Point. So you guys know this as this was the Bill Daniels' first building here, the cable center, right? At 299 Milwaukee Street. Having Creamery's been there, that's probably why you've been there, and the fountains. So this was bought by BMC Investments, and they are going to build 191 apartments here. 25,000 square feet of ground floor retail, 231 parking spaces. There's that architect again, Shears Adkins Rockmore, and they're breaking ground second quarter 2024.
And is that open space now going to be gone? It's right there.
No, they are going to have some fountains,
Some
so
fountains.
they are going to have an area in front that will emulate the fountain area.
Yeah, you can't see that up close, but I know
Yeah.
Matt is very proud that he's gonna have some green space up there.
We'll try to get some better renderings up on our website under the development. They have gone through presentation to the Cherry Creek North Design Review Board, and your zoning committee often attends those meetings. And you get a lot of information from attending those meetings. So we'll try to get some of those images up for you, but they are going to have some fountains.
And some open space like what they have now, or yes.
It's gonna be configured differently, but when you say like they have now, there will be some fountains where people can hang out around it. And I think there might even be, a space for kids to jump in and out of fountains, as they always have done in those fountains up there.
So does this also take over where the building of dam is down below, or? Is it
Yes.
just- Okay,
Yeah,
and then but it doesn't extend all the way to that.
no, Milwaukee Street Tavern still stays, that
Okay.
building. Next slide, Doug. All right, in the multi-housing development world again, so I think you guys have probably seen this, right? The Pro Real Estate Group, 50 South Steel Street. You guys can relax here for a minute because there's no date on when they're gonna break ground, but this is gonna be 450 units. This is behind Cavode. So it's right on Steel, across from Macy's, where that commercial building is right now. Larger average unit size, CMX 12 zoning, another pool deck with great amenities. They're gonna do some restricted housing, providing 12.5% of units restricted to those earning 80% of area median income. And the architect is Solomon Cordwell Funds. So that's, I don't know when that's happening. That's kind of on hold right now. I think Bro's got a couple things on hold, and we'll get to the next slide, Doug. Okay, so that was all the multi-housing. Did you have a question about
Yeah,
multi-housing?
what's the parking requirements for all
Good question. I don't know. I don't know. Did I say anything about parking on these?
It depends on exactly where it is, like this is the CMX 12
Yeah.
zoning, but they've got some agreements with the city. Anything that's in the bid has a different zoning requirement, so you almost have to read the property to see what the requirement.
Well, I mean, some of these projects, it seem like they have very limited parking. You gotta park in the street, which is a mess.
Well, and of course, anybody who's following what's happening now is that there is a move to reduce required parking so that it's easier to build affordable housing. But I will tell you that most developers are looking, especially when they're gonna rent at these prices, they look at the market, not the requirements. So they often build more parking if they wanna lease a luxury apartment to people with 2 cars, they usually have that, so, but we're watching it, so.
And that's the beauty of somebody like Lou, who's a lawyer. This is not my skill set. I report. I don't know the details. You get in the weeds. So thank you. Thank you for people like you. All right, so these guys won't return my phone call, but this land was sold to Baywood Hotels in 2023. So they demolished this area and we're gonna put a hotel up, but Sunridge Hotel Group got a little spooked during COVID, sold it, I think made some great money. And it's planned and approved for 12 stories, but they won't return my phone calls.
And
So
that's where the old Andre.
the old Andre Bakery.
Yes,
Yeah.
so
Okay.
it's technically a cherry.
So I still report on it because I think there is maybe another hotel coming in because it sold to a hotel group. But there's no detail on that. Doug, are you ready to go to the next slide?
It's there.
You got it? Okay. So, okay, wait a minute. I thought I had this, it's supposed to say completed on the side. This is a completed project. So this is 200 Clayton Street where the Charles Schwab is. It is completed. There's my completed. Okay, all right. They're just finishing out tenant finishing, but they've got some big customers that have moved in, Charles Schwab, Vantage Data, AON. So that's good news. Now, if you go to the next slide, Doug. 250 Clayton Street. Remember, this was supposed to be the sister project. This is on hold right now. The plan is to do an 8-story office building again and get it leased out with office space and have retail and lots of beautiful outdoor amenities. But I think that they want to get some renters first. And right now they don't, so everything's on hold with this. So you will be able to travel down Clayton Street this next year without too many problems. Doug, if you want to go to the next slide. Sure. Okay, Elevation Development Group, look, we got another completed up there. So 4-story office building, this is at 300 University. And it is fully leased. They've got outdoor terraces on the 2nd and 4th floors, 2 levels of underground parking, which is 116 spaces. It's open studio architecture again. Right now, they're doing the tenant finish work. The tenants are real estate finance firm Walker and Dunlop, Broadway 10 Wood-Fired Steakhouse, and sushi, and that is opening next summer.
Hmm.
Next slide. Nice. Okay, Midwest Property Group, Fillmore and Third, this is kind of close to you guys, right? Yeah, so this 4-story office building is almost done. Barberini's gonna be the tenant on the first floor. And I think it's, you know what, this is a slide where I'm like, I think they're fully leased at this point. So it's 4240 architecture, and it will be done, I believe, like in the next couple of months. Next slide, Doug. All right. Schnitzer West, this is the one that's killing my friend Larry Dietrich here. This is his first meeting, and he's lived in Cherry Creek North for 37 years. Say hi to Larry.
Hi, Larry.
So Larry likes to go to the Starbucks, and it can't sit outside right now because it's too noisy. So they're doing an 8-story office building. This is really interesting that they've got Antero Resources moving completely from downtown here into Cherry Creek. They're currently negotiating a lease for a restaurant user that is taking both retail spaces. 250 parking spaces, 5 levels underground. The architect is Ghosh Partners. I think they're out of Chicago. They're supposed to be done fall 2025. Okay. All right. Look, another completed. Okay, BMC Investments, 255 Fillmore Street. We did a tour there this past fall. Lou was on it. Linda was on it. It's beautiful on the inside. They broke ground in 2022. It's 97% leased. Crusoe Energy is the largest office tenant. Le Colonial is taking 6,500 square feet to anchor the street level retail. 202 parking space in a valet service garage. The architect is 4240 Architecture, and they are currently completing the tenant finish. The MC Investments, again, I'm just going to warn you now, Milwaukee Street is probably not a street you're going to be going down in the next 5 years. So right across from 299 Milwaukee, BMC Investments is building another 7-story Class A mixed-use project. It's already 84,000 square feet of office space, 10,000 square feet of retail, 4240 architecture, 202 parking spaces, and they're breaking ground second quarter 2024. Magnetic Capital in Burgage, is that how you say that? Burgage Limited. They're at 3250 East 2nd Avenue, across from the Global Down Syndrome Foundation. 5-story office building, 90,000 square feet of office and retail. The architect is Oz Architecture. They're breaking ground second quarter 2024. Delivery fourth quarter 2025. So that's right over by Cherry Creek Grill. I always bring this one up because Uchi's my favorite restaurant in the world. So Uchiko is coming into 299 Fillmore Street, and they're still working on permits from Denver, but they're hopeful for a fourth quarter 2024 opening. And also, I always like to bring this up because the Jimmy Williams building is really cool and it's staying. So they're just gonna make it beautiful. And that's Cliff Lewis. So. All right, what's next? Okay, 210 University. This was purchased for $67.7 million, guys, by Quorum and Coke Real Estate, and it's 3.3 acres. And I don't have a lot of information on it, but there is a phase 1. If you look at this slide over here, you can see the orange where it says phase 1. You can see that's a big, big property. If you go to the next slide, Doug, you'll see that there'll be a 4-story retail and office space, 2 levels of underground parking. The architect is Tribot, and the breaking ground is to be determined. Are there more? I think there's another slide.
You've got one.
Okay, Alpine Investments in Breckenridge. Have you guys seen this schematic yet? It might be the first time I just got this. So you know where Forget Me Not and the Taylor Building is, just north of the Cherry Cricket. So those are going to come down, but they're going to build around the Cherry Cricket. So it's 97,000 square feet of Class A office, 4,600 square feet retail and restaurant space, 3 levels of underground parking. That's 98 spaces. Redevelopment of the back parking lot of iconic Cherry Cricket property. And the Cricket will continue to operate out of the same building it has called home for years. The architect is Triba, and they're breaking ground second quarter 2025. So next year, maybe, we're not gonna be on Clayton Hall. All right, this one I found surprising. Did you guys know about this one? Like,
Not
what?
much.
I saw one of my friends at Larry's Starbucks on Fillmore and Second, one of my favorite things. And he's like, Christine, Cucina Calori, that building just got bought. That's my favorite restaurant. What am I gonna do? I'm like, I don't have any control over this. I'm sorry. So this got bought by a local company, Deal Group Limited and Green City Limited, and Strew Development's gonna do the development on it. So it's a 4-story mixed-use building, 7,000 square feet of retail, 3 floors of office space, 2 levels of underground parking. Open Studio is the architect again. The concept plan has been filled with the city, and the current tenants, Cucina Calori, Michael Moore, the Twisted Tulip, and Pop and Dot, which are a lot of our favorite places in Cherry Creek. They are planning on breaking ground in 2025.
So will those, tenants go away?
They're gonna have to find a new place or work with these guys. So, I don't know yet. All right, Doug, any more development? Oh my goodness. Okay, I saved this one for last. I'm sorry, this is really a tiring presentation to do because there's so much. It's just a little crazy. So I know you guys are exhausted because I am too. So I think Matt's come in and told you about this, right? So 8 stories on First Avenue, 482 apartment studios, 1 and 2 bedrooms. 10% will be affordable units. 126,000 square feet of retail. The larger retailer spots will be made smaller to attract retail and restaurants. The new facade on the retail space on the east side of Clayton Lane and Second. So you guys know, if you gave this presentation where Crate and Barrel is, all of those guys are gonna have a new facade. They're gonna be smaller because that's the trend now. Retail wants smaller spots. Crate and Barrel, I think he's trying to get a restaurant on top of that he had talked about. So I don't know what the latest is on that. This is Triba Architects, and they are breaking ground in 2024. You go to the next slide.
Well, that's the east side, that's the west side. Wait a minute.
Oh, you're right. It is the west side. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. So he's gonna build, the thing I love about this is that Cherry Creek's so linear, you got first, second, third. He wants to go in where Crate and Barrel has that docking station and make a little thing called a passia. Is that how you said it? Paseo, okay.
What is that?
And there'll be like an ice cream shop back there and maybe a little bar, and it'll be all tiled, and it'll be just a nice like alcove, like a place to. Yeah, do you know where the loading dock is? Yeah. So anyway, I think that's kind of a interesting idea. And you probably know that he wants to do Equinox on First Avenue also. Is the plan to put an Equinox on that side, to show some activity on First Avenue.
The health club chain.
Large.
Health club chain.
Doug, do we have anything else?
I don't know.
Oh, let's see. Okay, so 288 Clayton Street, which Jerry Wrench owned, recently sold. That's where La Meridian is. For 12.5 million to a Lario Oil and Gas Company. And Second and Josephine Street, the building where I'm at is just got sold, but they're just making improvements right now. So those are just some more activity in the neighborhood I thought you guys would be interested in hearing about. And you know, the one thing about Cherry Creek is you can always plan on there being more shops for you guys to enjoy. We've got Ansac's just open. And most of these have opened. Bar and Chop House, Broadway 10's coming in, Saltwater Social, Le Colonial. Hearing rave reviews about Sweet Izzy, but I've never been there. What's the next slide? Let's see.
The rest.
Okay, and the mall is just doing great with some just premier brands over there. Cinnabon was here in the eighties and it's back. All right, yeah. So that is the presentation on development as far as I know. The reason I started doing this is that Lou and Wayne and a lot of you that have sat in the steering committee meetings before, we were hearing these presentations 12 years ago and nobody was putting a presentation together. And, you know, I'm the only employee at the Cherry Creek Chamber. We're just a boutique chamber, but I'm like, somebody needs to report on this. So I just started putting it together, and that's why I say I am the conveyor of, like, I just get information, put it together, and you guys do the hard work getting into the meetings.
It's the number of questions, but don't worries. Sir,
I've got a question.
Oh.
Has there been any feasibility studies
Yeah.
or
Christine.
any kind of information on what happens to crime when there's such building in such a concentrated area over such a big period of time? What happens to burglaries? And what kind of efforts are going to be made? Those things start to skyrocket because of this tremendous influx of water.
you want to take that or you want me to?
I would just say that Richard Barrett was supposed to be with me here tonight in Cherry Creek North, and he's he has some reports that say crime has come down with their security. So I mean, that's a good thing to hear. And then do you have more information on the building?
Well, there are safety reports that are run through the bid. And then there are also meetings every month about safety, and the statistics do show that crime has come down. And it's not linear related to the number of developments, because when you have high-end development, when you're getting 15,000 for a 2-3 bedroom apartment, when, you know, some of the condos in North Creek are selling well over 12 million, you have a different profile than maybe some cities. So we're very lucky here. I mean, we're in many ways the beneficiary of the sad news about downtown. And where crime has gone up downtown, some of those tenants have left to come to Cherry Creek, some of those larger office tenants. So we're also really fortunate that the bid has really increased their investment in security. I know many of you who were really close to the bid see the security vehicles driving around. And while crime has come down generally, specifically in Cherry Creek North, it is low compared to other parts of the city. So we'll still follow it. And I want to say one thing about some of these developments. We have had several of these developers come and present on the specific projects that Christine is summarizing. So since we've gone to a Zoom platform and a hybrid platform, we upload those presentations to the website. So if you go back and look, you'll be able to see some details. Recently, we had Matt Jobin come and talk about the Sears redevelopment on Clayton Lane. We've had the developers from Alpine come and present on the Cherry Cricket. And just to note that we don't really know what's happening with Kachina, but we know that anybody who really loves Forget-Me-Not, they're going to go away a while and come back in. So, you know, we'll try to keep a close eye on a lot of this, and I will say a couple of other things. All of these developments, with the exception of the Cherry Creek West, which is still working its way through large development review of the city, they are currently zoned, so we're not seeing applications to rezone. But only one of these projects where they had an application to rezone was the Vulgar condominium project, and they were not successful in getting an upzoning. In fact, they just withdrew it and worked with the neighborhoods or with the neighbors and kept it within its 5-story zoning. So we keep a close eye on that. We really tried to stay within the area plan and our current zoning, and the city's been very cooperative. As we see more transit issues in the city. And again, with the, as Owen told you, we've got a lot of infrastructure that we wish we had more money from the city. It doesn't look like that's gonna change anytime soon. And so we've got to work together, and that's why these surveys are important. Ma'am?
Yeah, just a couple of questions. Is anyone looking at putting in another grocery store, a pharmacy? I mean, for all the, you wanna make a livable, I mean, I.
Grocery stores, you know, some of us who have been here have been.
Yeah.
Years. And, you know, we miss our old Safeway and Rite Aid, and
Gas station.
we have Clear Spring Pharmacy, and we've got Whole Foods. We've got nothing that is on deck right now. I know several people were involved in trying to keep Safeway.
Yeah.
It's not a very profitable business, but Whole Foods has a 30-year lease on that space, which is why even though that Clayton Lane is one big development, they actually are cutting that off because they're just going to keep it. So don't expect redevelopment of the Whole Foods, a bigger Whole Foods, or development out to University. What we're hearing right now is that they are just going to stay with their lease. So that's our grocery store right now.
And then there was talk about a possible bar at the building at office building at Second Avenue. Is that?
So there is, so a couple of things to know, some of you were involved in this, that did get rezoned on one tiny little piece, the edit spa. Went into that project and then had to be rezoned because it was an old little zone. And, when they came in, that allowed us to then work with that developer and to do a development agreement. So that developer has agreed to a lot of things that Cherry Creek North Zoning Committee asked them to do, including bike storage, excess parking, and they are going to do a restaurant on the main level with a rooftop. But we get agreements for anybody that has an outdoor establishment where they apply for a liquor license. We go in and get yet another agreement that the zoning committee works on, and so we have, they're called good neighbor agreements. But there are restrictions where we say after a certain period of time at night, the music stops outdoors. So it doesn't mean that, you know, we don't have to complain. A lot of people who that at 250 Columbine understand that they're, you know, they all now have little sound meters and decibel meters because we had a lot of trouble with the rooftop of the house center. But they're under restrictions where they can't exceed the legal decibel limit after a certain time, and it's usually 10 o'clock and I think midnight, depending on Saturdays. But the sound has to go off, even though the establishment can stay open at 1 o'clock.
I had heard that the View House purchased the building where Mahak is.
Yes.
You know, I have heard that too, but that was only a rumor. I have not done a title search. But we have a development agreement on that property from years and years and years ago. And so I think we're gonna have to dust that off if that is true, but nobody has come to us to tell us that that is being redeveloped.
No, he did buy it, just, he's not doing anything with it, it's just another, this is gonna sound horrible, rich guy that needs some property in Cherry Creek North.
So if you have.
Let me go to this, sorry, let me go to this gentleman back here. Or Annette, would you have a? The question was, it's the building where Mediac is. So that split level, and, that was the one, I think, Barry Hirschfeld was one of the early investors in that. That one. Yeah, yes, your house. But we do have a development agreement on that one. The restrictions are very limiting.
Be very hard
And we're
I live
really,
on that alley.
you know, what we'll try to do for those of you who are curious about some of these, we have a lot of development agreements, some of which are very. And they're on our website for the most part. The big one on First and Colorado Boulevard, that's the Gateway property. You can look at that, you can read it, you can see the kind of restrictions. I mean, that one has details, including what you can't put on the balconies, because that's a gateway into our neighborhood. And if anybody's gonna do multifamily and it's restricted to them on the north side, it's gotta be of a quality that is a way to introduce people into Cherry Creek. So we've got really restricted, so you can see the development agreement and the pictures. Sir, we'll go to you next to you. Better.
Because we can't change our infrastructure, are gonna be pretty sizable.
So it's a really good point, and I'll just say a couple of things about
Lou,
that.
Repeat it, would you?
The question really involves traffic studies. Cherry Creek West is finishing their traffic study, Resource Partners, and it will be released, these are public. So we will have some folks to help make that accessible, and even ask them to do a presentation to the neighborhood about the traffic impact and those studies. The city also did a study as a part of Denver Moves Cherry Creek and Denver Moves Everyone. And we want and that was done through DOTI, Department of Transportation and Infrastructure. So we want the people that worked for a year and a half or so on Denver Moves Cherry Creek to take their traffic study and the information that was made and help identify what that really means for the neighborhood. So they do have to do traffic studies.
When you talk to them, my suggestion is to see how they're rounding it out. Obviously, it's a lot different than very sure.
Well, so we'll try to get to that specific. I mean, I'm learning a lot about transportation. And I've just gone on the Transportation Solutions Board, and there is several upcoming seminars and programs about RTD putting in bus rapid transit, BRT. And it has already been approved for Colorado Boulevard. So I'm on a committee that now to look at that, and I would be happy to post and share what they're thinking about that. I went to a meeting last week and they showed different options for doing bus rapid transit. The difference is, we used to have more bus service to this area, and our retailers, and Christine knows this very well, they have a hard time getting people to work in the lower wage jobs, of which there are so many openings in here, the hotels, and the restaurants, because they can't get here. And where they live in Capitol Hill and Glendale and out in the federal corridor, it's very difficult to get here. So when you think about equity and you think, well, why did they take some of these bus lines and if it takes a single mom, you know, an hour and a half to ride buses and change buses to get to work, they're not gonna work here. So we have a real impact on our business community that we need to change. And we also have the Spear-Leedsville corridor, right, which is, it's the I-25 of going from east to downtown, and to west, to all the jobs that are there. And so that becomes another thoroughfare. So we've got several BRT projects that are sort of on the list. And that means every 15 minutes, there is a bus that comes by. So you need to go to the airport, you can jump on, every 15 minutes, you can get on a bus and get to downtown. And hopefully, we get better transit, because this city and this state are not on a stop growing mode, right? And so we need to make sure that if we're gonna continue in these growth patterns, we have a better transit. And sometimes I think that, and I know Nick agrees with me, that, he said, well, if you make it difficult to drive people to their other cars, not getting out of my house, right? So, or I drive to Whole Foods so I can carry the groceries home. Because if you know 3 blocks, they're heavy. You're not gonna get people out of cars, so you gotta make it easier. Another thing that we're looking at is possibly doing some micro transit. So there's a program downtown that's in the works, we're looking at it to see it, and Richard, it's maybe on a lot of these things. Whether you can have one of those systems operating here, so if you have your groceries, you walk down Whole Foods, you jump on that to get home. So, you know, there are options where we might be able to add some micro transit that will help those of us who don't want to lug home walking our groceries or our purchase. So we're trying, we're on top of it, we're watching it, and a couple other things to think about. These projects are not going to all come online at once. The large Cherry Creek West project is probably going to take 10 years to build up. So if we are going to get bus rapid transit, the RT, on any of these major roads, it's going to be something that we have to watch and demand that we get better infrastructure. And so anybody who wants to help, let us know, because we're really trying to keep our eye on the ball. In a city that has no money right now in its budget, it means that we have to really watch what's being developed. Residential is a much less impactful transit development. So when you get people to live and work in the district, so you've got the high end, now we're possibly getting some affordable housing. Maybe somebody who actually works as a teacher in Bromwell School can finally afford to live in the neighborhood. So we need all these things if we're going to continue growth at this level. Yes, ma'am.
I live near parking. I mean, the building was built at Second and Josephine. We have a parking problem to begin with. We've got the Hillstone staff that park. We have the construction people that park. Is there any effort to enforce that you are parking? Because it's not.
The BE enforcement issue has been one for quite a while.
If you consider all that building,
Yes.
that's where they park. I see them come home to get their lunch, come back to their car, get their lunch out of their car, and go back to work, which means they've been there since 7 o'clock in the morning.
Are you talking at the office building?
I'm talking on 4th. And just
The new building.
that new building that's being built where they're doing inside.
Okay, so maybe the tenant finish, maybe those are just workers.
300,
So-
exactly, 300 first. Yes.
So workers now have to, and we can help, thank Wayne to help get this done. When he was our councilman, we have a requirement that when you do a development, you've got to file a parking plan for your workers.
They're not.
And it's one thing to have these parking restrictions and these requirements, it's another to get them enforced.
So that's my question. Are you guys working with the parking enforcement to try to do something?
You know, what I would tell you is, we talk about that with Dottie all the time. Your zoning committee and Annette Woodward and I, when we meet with Dottie on this parking thing, we raise that issue a lot. And the response has been, for a while, I think it's getting better, they couldn't hire people. They literally could not hire enforcement workers. We're low staffed in the city for police, we're low staffed with parking enforcement. We're having trouble in the city, and you know, frankly, if you pay them more, you could probably staff up. But in a city where the budget is so stressed, probably not gonna see that. So what I would say is,
They enforced it. They didn't have all that.
well, you would think so, but it goes into the general fund. We have talked about, and this is gonna get into the weeds, and we're not gonna talk about it now, but in the bid, there is some option to do parking districts where the money stays in that district. That is not true of the metered parking or any of the paid street parking, that money doesn't stay here, it goes in the general fund. As do all the parking tickets that some of us pay.
But these aren't metered or
No, they're not. And so what you could do on that, if they are not metered, but if they are restricted to 2 hour, use 311. You log it in, you can do it online, you can make a phone call, and you can actually have a much better impact. If you say, I live on this street and there have been cars parked there for 4 hours and nobody's even come by. You know what? They log that in and they listen. Ma'am,
they log it, but they said, I actually called. They said they're not.
well, they can't say they're not enforcing it, but what they will say, and yeah, so I'm going to Owen right now. I said, "Did you hear what she said?" So,
Mary, 311, she's very sweet, but she said they're not.
Hey Lou, I wanna add too, I was walking in Cherry Creek North, with Richard the other day. I guess he's supposed to be here tonight, but we found 2 boots on cars. And he was telling me that they are actually starting to write their own tickets, Cherry Creek North is, because they are going to try to, like, if you have illegal construction workers, like parking, they know they're supposed to be in their parking area and they're not. They're really trying to get a handle on that, and they will try and get their permits pulled if they're not following the rules.
and that's another thing is that if it's repeat and you can trace it, some of these guys you can't. And even the ones who are, because we're just up the street here on Clayton, and the workers who were working down the Clayton building, we'd see them, they come for a day and they get all their tools and they go to work for the day. And so you can see it and you can tell, but what do you do about it? So we're trying to get some way to identify, well, where are they working, how do you know? And then can you get the developers held responsible? Yes, ma'am.
So along those lines, have you looked at the timeline? Because there seem to be so many projects that were grouped together in the second and third quarter this year. And I'm just wondering, of all the projects that you identified, have you looked at the timeline and where the peaks and the valleys are? Because I think we're in for a miserable summer.
Well,
2 years.
you know, those of you who have lived here for a long time and have seen these changes, you could say we've lived through many difficult times. The sheer volume, again, will sort of shift. I think they're gonna have a difficult time at that 3rd and Milwaukee area because those are coming up at the same time. But as Christine pointed out, some of these projects now are done, so those streets will lighten up. We've talked about ways to try to make it easier because the last thing we want are to dissuade people from driving in and shopping in the district.
But Second Avenue is going to be a mess between Adams and St. Paul.
Yeah.
I mean, that whole 3 blocks, there's not going to be anybody who can come or go based on.
You know, we talked about some ideas that, you know, maybe we could have more valet service where blocks are really difficult. But, you know, all of these are just ideas to try to address the problem. And if the problem is big enough and the businesses are impacted, we'll find more creativity, I guess.
And Cherry Creek North is really on it, like, this is Richard's baby, like, you've gotta be on it, you and Patrick, so it's, top of mind.
Yeah. Yes.
Do you have a summary of all the proposed, square footages and units?
This will all be on the website, and so all.
Just like a basic, like there's 2,000 apartments, 96 condos, 6,000 square feet of X.
I think Christine have that summary, so those slides will be on the website.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know what, I'll try to see if Cherry Creek North has totals, I'll see where we are with that. But, are you working right now? You wanna volunteer?
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, you know, this is a subject that I brought up many times and I talked to Amanda endlessly, and the speeding during the school hours, that nobody really respects it on, or once in a while they put these private vans to take pictures for speeding. But, you know, if it's
once in a while that happens, it's not continuously. And I mean, this morning, they were going 60 miles an hour on 6, right as the kids were getting into school. And it is a daily thing that people, during school hours, nobody.
Owen is taking notes, so
Well,
this is-
like I said, I talked to a man that says, I'll put the van because the van is private, we don't pay for it, They make money with their tickets, so where can they come from?
Yeah.
So I'll take that back and we'll reflect to van. And so there's a weird math equation that the van does. So on the east side of Colorado Boulevard, the van can't sit on 6th Avenue because of the geometry. I'm not sure how to say it, but they can't get the speeds. On the west side of Colorado Boulevard, I don't think that's the case. And so we'll ask to get that van.
And also on Josephine,
Okay.
on Josephine, they just
Yeah.
go so fast.
Yeah, but we'll ask, for sure.
Let me see who's done first.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, actually, just 2 quick questions. One is, you said the presentation is on the website.
Yes,
It's
yes.
already on
And
there.
then, it is?
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's the one that we have this presentation, see, I told you we tap her expertise often. So I'm also chair of the Cherry Creek Steering Committee. And those, the committee involves representatives from the mall, the bid, country club neighborhood, Cherry Creek East, Hilltop, a lot of other, folks. So we put that up on the Cherry Creek North Neighborhood Association website. So if, you can go down the rabbit hole and you get a lot of this information, I think this one is even more updated.
Yeah.
So this, while we have it up there, this one is more updated, and you'll be able to get it in a couple of days.
Awesome, appreciate that, that was very well done. And, the other second question is, after the construction's done, when these buildings are being in use. I was just wondering, because a lot of the parking access is off of the back alleys. And one of the buildings like go between 3rd and 4th on Milwaukee. So how is that gonna be controlled? Because I can almost see when you have like 100 and some parking spots, the back alleys filling up. Are they allowed to come down the back alley to access, or how is that being controlled?
So the zoning in Cherry Creek North bid does not allow new curb cuts, which means all access has to be from the alley. There have been discussions about changing that because sometimes, especially, and this is to protect the pedestrian experience walking along the sidewalks. But if you're walking on the east-west blocks, you're gonna come across the curb cut for the alley, and sometimes that backs up. So it's a good point. I want to make sure everybody understands. One other thing that is another little in the weeds behind the scene thing that's going on. There is a fairly new ordinance in Denver that requires all developers to put in place a transit management plan before they get their CO. CO stands for certificate of occupancy. So if you're building a new building, you're adding X square feet of whatever it is, they calculate the trip charge associated with the uses allowed in the building. And the developer has to have an offset management plan for that trip volume. Now, what that means for a smaller building is different than like for a Cherry Creek West. And what we're trying to do, working with the city, is to say, we don't want to wait till the buildings are done. It's a large development review. It's in review now by the city. You need to address the transit plan now. And East West Partners has been amenable, so they've stepped up. There's a guy at Dottie, Nathan Pope, who is in charge of this. And they stepped up and they say, okay, we're gonna do a pilot for large development review, and East West Partners has agreed to participate on that, where while it's not required, they're gonna work on their transit management plan now. So
I can just see the back alley backing up, that's our part.
all of those are transit issues, and again, the best outcome is to have people who live and work and play in the neighborhood, who don't get in their cars. And, for those of us who do that now, that I don't go downtown, but cars as well. There are times I don't move my car for a week. And so we wanna keep that character in our neighborhood, and when I use it, I go. So we're trying to solve problems with our transit focus and still protect what we have in this little jewel of the neighborhood, recognizing that, and I think Christine said this is, I think it actually was the fourth, wow, largest growing, most desired neighborhood in the whole, or from a retail perspective, and in the country. So, we've got to acknowledge that when Cherry Creek zone expects some development, I don't think anybody expected it would be this big this fast, and a lot of that's because of the problems downtown. So we're trying, and we want to make this information available to you all. We want to make sure that you understand that there's a zoning committee that works hard on these issues, and we want to make sure that we bring it to you in a way that makes sense without everybody just saying, oh, getting upset and saying we can't do this, because for the most part, these are compliant with zoning. And then you have Uchiko, who could go up to 4 stories, and they're not. You have the Cricket, they can go up several stories if they demolish it, and they're not. So we have some really good developers, and I know it's a stress, and we thank you all for caring about it and listening. Linda.
I just want to make sure you know where to find it on our Facebook page, even though we encourage you on our website, even though there's tons of fabulous information, so we'd like you to cruise all the way through. But when you go on the website, go to zoning/development, and then scroll down to CCNA Business District Projects. And we put everything, other than 2 slides, I think, that are already up there. And because we're both visual, we put them by blocks. So instead of it's over here and over here and over here, we went right down the blocks so you could kind of see where they are. And the visual pictures are right on there. So I think there were only 2 tonight that are new. So we, as our webmaster, we have maybe we get the perfect. But all the pictures are already up there, so you can go through on the website under zoning, and then CCN district, and all the visuals and the pictures and the information that she presented are right there next.
And then if you want to watch the developers present, you can go to the meetings.
Prior meetings.
And you can actually watch those presentations.
What's your website?
It's ccnneighbors.com. So, last question.
Okay.
Better be a good one.
Well, I just first wanted to say, I'm really happy about the library. And I think that's.
Bravo for our library.
Jewel, and I'm glad that nobody can develop it land, right? Tell me they can do that.
They cannot do that.
They're not gonna take our library, that's great. There are, it feels like that there are a lot of things that still need to be discussed. I think one thing that we'd like to know is what is the status of the residential parking permit thing? Where does that land right now? And I also just wanted to say that I moved here partly because, like you, I wanted to be able to walk to the store. I wanted to be able to leave my car in the garage for a week. So I have to, I can't park at King Soup at the park at Whole Foods, and frankly, I can't afford to shop at Whole Foods because I can buy everything but for some practical.
So, I appreciate the comments, and especially about parking.
Yeah.
Please don't disengage with this issue. It's been going a long time. We had Scott Burton present, and the information, they sent out a survey And that Woodward and I have been working with, we're trying to get to the bottom of the details on that survey. Councilman Sawyer is helping us on that. And we haven't given up. So some of their proposals that just seem to those of us who live here and use those passes and understand what the street is really like at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. We need to stay engaged and we need to have a voice and we'll need your help. So when we say we need people to step up and do some flyering, or we're trying to get a petition drive going, please help us because voices matter. Now, again, this is not going in front of council, but we need to make sure that there's accountability for the information, that we really understand what's happening. I don't think we're there yet. So help us do that. Keep engaged. We so appreciate your membership, your support, all of you. We have a great board. A lot of people do a lot of work, and we still have energy to have some fun with Dr. Fitzgerald, and we'll have more of those fun things this year to look forward to. But thank you all for being here tonight. Let's thank Christine again. She's so wonderful. I don't have to do that. Thank you all. Good night.